welcome back to the lobby. We're here to talk about business with Justin Haywald. How you doing?
I'm all about the business.
How's business?
Business is good. I'm wearing a tie today.
You are? What's on your tie?
I got this from Studio Ghibli. It's a
really?
Totoro tie.
Nice. Nothing
so there's
says
little Totoros on it.
Nothing says business like some sweet. Is it Ghibli or Ghibli? Ghibli?
I mean, like the actual pronunciation is Ghibli,
like
but
I know
we don't say that.
I'm asking the man who speaks Japanese fluently.
Just Ghibli.
So, Ghibli
makes sense.
All right.
Ghibli.
We're not here to talk about Studio Ghibli. We're here to talk about Activision purchasing Kim.com. Kim.com.
King.
They bought Kim.com.
Kim Kardashian's new
amazing.
website.
Kim.com.
She does have a very successful mobile game, though.
But not as successful as the guy who made Mega Upload. Is that was Mega.com?
Yeah,
Kim.com?
Mega.
And now Activision own Kim.com. It's amazing.
So, well, no, not Kim. This is King.com.
Oh,
or King.
King.com. Right.
King
The guys who made
Industries.
Candy Crush.
Yes, and other games that you know really well, like Candy Crush Soda Saga and Candy Saga.
And owners of the words Candy and Saga, as the people who made the Banner Saga are all too aware of.
Those were, I think, settled out of court.
Okay.
The actual details of those will never come to light. They also were trying to go after somebody who was using the word candy in a title.
Really? They went after the
developer of Candy Swipe, which came out before Candy Crush Saga.
It's called Candy Swipe.
Candy Swipe.
Wow. Did they try and take Halloween to court?
No, there's no Halloween in the title.
No, but candy.
But they go after comic book characters for using the word crush.
Are you serious?
No, that's not.
Like,
that is not true.
I can't tell. Who knows? But let's talk about what we do know. Activision's purchased this company for an incredible amount of money. How much money and why did they do it, do you think?
So it's over $6 billion, which is an insane amount of money. And I think the reason that we think about it is that, like, no matter what, all of these amounts of money for these companies are crazy. But this one sounds especially huge because recently Disney bought Star Wars for $4 billion.
Yeah.
That means this is worth more to Activision than Star Wars is to Disney.
Look at this. Who cares about this? This guy there, he wishes he was playing Candy Crush. This guy, he's like, oh man, I'm going to kill all the Jedi because they bet me in Candy Crush.
And it's such not only a film franchise with Star Wars, but merchandising. There's so many ways they're going to make money from that.
Yeah.
And the amount of money is at the end of the day really not that big of a thing because Candy Crush, even now when it's on a decline, Candy Crush and King are not doing that great. They still make over $1 billion a year. So, you know, Activision is going to make this back very quickly. So it's not really the matter of money, but the fact that they value it at that amount of money. That a publisher like Activision, who has so many properties, who has so much that they can do, they could buy hundreds of smaller developers, but instead they went after the very biggest fish.
Yeah.
And what do you think the reason is that they did that?
So is it like either it's because they're trying to, you know, get a foothold into this massive, not emerging market. Mobile games isn't emerging anymore. It's
someday these mobile games will catch on.
It's very much like it's bigger than mainstream games in terms of gross revenue, surely at this stage.
And just in terms of people who play it, like people who don't think of themselves as gamers are actually gamers.
Yeah.
And they spend more time and more money on them than most of us do. Like when you think about Zynga, and when they think about a whale, like we think of a whale as like, oh, this person spent $100 or $200 in microtransactions. At Zynga, a whale is someone who could spend thousands of dollars a month on Farmville.
Yeah.
What are you buying?
And if you're spending, it's like any other game that we play. If you're spending enough time on it, then you're willing to buy the next DLC or whatever. Like,
I'm not going to spend $1,000 on Fallout. No matter how good Fallout 4 might be, I'm not going to spend $1,000 a month on it.
So let's talk about, I guess, what are the business reasons for this? Because King's shares have jumped up something like 14%. Activision's have also had a spike today. Like, how much of this is just posturing for shareholders? How much of this is to do with sort of how business is perceived and not really like inroads into like new markets? Are they going to start making Call of Duty games on phones? Like, what are we looking at here?
I think those are the kinds of things that we're going to see. From our perspective, this seems like a ridiculous thing. It sounds like Activision, the Call of Duty maker, is buying Candy Crush Saga, and they're not, because Candy Crush is just a small thing, and that will ultimately be gone. And King knows that. King knows that they have kind of a one-trick pony. They've tried other games, and like Rovio, like the Farmville developer Zynga, those games have all failed. Nobody cares about those games as much anymore. They've tried to diversify, and they've just been completely unsuccessful. And King knows that they need other properties. They need a way to distribute games that will reach a bigger audience because they're on a downward trend. And Activision, on the other side, has so many huge titles like Call of Duty on the PC side. They have Blizzard, they have World of Warcraft and Hearthstone. They have these games that capture the core, but they don't have a casual audience. And that's where EA has just been killing them in the past couple of years. That EA, as much as we might disparage some of the things they do, they're really successful, especially with their mobile games.
Yeah,
with
a lot of people
Simpsons
play
games.
Simpsons Tap Out.
And this is Activision's opportunity to get a foot in that market without having to start from the bottom. Like, they're basically taking not the game that's at the top anymore, because that's the Clash of Clans type games. There's an Age of whatever, Age of War. Those games are the current top.
Game of Age.
But even now, years after it's come out, Candy Crush Saga is still like number 3, and one of the others is number 6. And this is a way for them to get a lot of people really quickly. They have access now to a huge swath of users and a lot of money that they weren't getting before from that market, which is kind of like, I know people always throw out that term, but a blue ocean.
Yeah.
Like, it is endless. People who don't think of themselves as gamers play these games. Your mom is someone who, well, I don't know about your mom. Like, we never talk about that when we're doing that stuff.
You know about my mom, but we don't talk about it.
But my mom in particular, like, loves these kind of dumb games, and she wouldn't, like, I wouldn't think of her as a hardcore gamer, but she'll spend hours just like,
Which is the problem games have had in perpetuity, because it's a controller with all these buttons. Like, the closest, traditional game, core game, whatever we refer to ourselves as, got to the mainstream was the Wii, and the only reason for that was because it was a remote control, because people knew how to use a remote control. Your grandmother knew how to use a remote control, so she could play tennis,
And like, I think that we're in a really insular bubble. We think PS4 and Xbox One are doing really well. They're doing better than the 360 and the PS3 were.
And the PC's doing incredibly well as well, like getting more audience, it seems like.
But when you think of that in the broader context, like, yeah, it's doing better than the previous consoles did, and it's gaining acceptance, and it's making a lot of money, but not compared to something like mobile gaming, not compared to something like the ubiquity of TV and reaching out to literally the entire world. Because we love Call of Duty and Fallout and all of these other really big franchises. I can't wait to play Star Wars Battlefront. But at the end of the day, that's actually a really small percentage of the potential audience of something that, like, I'm just going to match these 3 colors. You can release that in any country, and there's no need to translate. What does this mean? I mean, there is localization, there is translating, not to despair, not to put anything like that.
But you put Bejeweled in front of a child who can't read, and they can still figure it out.
They're going to figure out, put those together. I won.
So should we be worried? Like, those of us who are in this bubble, those of us who are watching this show and play these games that are behind us and are excited about Fallout and stuff. Like, you look at a company like Konami, who's basically just said, see ya to the traditional video game industry because of their massive money they have in their casinos and pachinko parlors. There's a company like Activision, which obviously still has massive fingers in traditional games, but especially with Blizzard, and they own some of the biggest franchises. But they're also like a far ways away from the people who make Grand Prix and Pitfall. Like, now they're getting into this market, which might be that much more revenue driving for them. So, like, is this something we need to be continuously worried about? Because we're seeing so many companies which were near and dear to video games, the bigger ones at least, spending more time on this.
When you say worry about it, like, is this going to change what these big companies do and how they make money? Yeah, sure. Like, from that perspective, it's not going to be great. There might be a new Metal Gear game, which is going to be a pachinko parlor. Like, this might be the continuation of the Metal Gear saga. And in that sense, we're going to lose these established franchises that we might have a lot of nostalgia for and a lot of something that's holding on to it. But at the same time, most of these companies are not getting out of AAA gaming. They still see this as, you're a valuable audience, and we want to create games for you. It's really expensive to make things like Star Wars Battlefront and these huge multi-year, multi-million-dollar. There's a reason we don't see GTA every year. It's expensive, and it takes a lot of time and people and money. But they're still making those, and those, in the long run, still pay off. But at the same time, we still have great indie developers who are making really wonderful experiences with really small teams. And that's the kind of thing that's never going to go away. And that's the kind of way that we're going to, I think, continue to get the experiences that we love and that'll be really memorable for us from a gameplay perspective, and not having to worry as much about how can we increase our revenue this quarter over what it was previous quarter.
Interesting times. Justin Haywald, thank you for coming on and explaining that crazy madness to me and everyone watching. King.com, now owned by the good people at Activision. Let us know what you think. Do you play Candy Crush? Do you want none of your Call of Duty on phones? Let us know in the comment box below.